We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with author and columnist Jeff Charles getting into the new GOP diversity push. So Jeff, it seems that political parties are almost desperate to try and diversify how their candidates look, where they're from, their backgrounds, their race, gender, that kind of thing. And it's long been a staple for the Democrats to do this. But it seems that the Republican Party is also making, let's call it inroads into this. What are the numbers that we're looking at as we approach the midterms?
Yeah, so as far as black candidates, they've got at least about 180 running right now. Some have even won their primaries, and some, still remain to be seen. But this is a record number of black candidates. I mean, we're seeing a lot of wins with Latinos as well, or actually specifically Latinas who are winning their primary races, and they will probably win their ultimate races. I mean, in Texas, in predominantly Hispanic areas, you have Republican females who are winning and doing very well. So when I see this happening, I'm thinking, the word that comes to mind is finally. Finally, the Republican Party has actually started reaching out to minority voters in a real way. And I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see in November.
Okay, now, is this a winning strategy, though? Choosing candidates or promoting candidates or getting behind candidates based on, let's be fair, their skin color. Is that a winning strategy?
Sure. I mean, when you look at ethnicity, when you look at culture, people want to see other people who look like them. I mean, you hear the left use the term representation. There's some truth to that. I mean, if you look at a party and it's all one thing, then you might not feel like you really belong there. But when you see more black candidates running and getting support, more Hispanic candidates running and getting support, that's going to pique that interest. Oh, if more people from my community are voting Republican, maybe there's something I should be paying attention to. We're all built this way. It's a tribal thing that's part of human nature. So as much as we like to say we don't like identity politics, I think on the conservative side, we actually do. We just don't like doing it the way the left does it. So I think this is a good thing because now the GOP will look more like what America actually looks like.
So the left has been doing this for a long time anyway, but now that support's ebbing away. As we saw, as you point out in South Texas, I believe it was Myra Flores who won she's actually won a seat and will be going on in the special election and will be going on again in November into the midterms there. But the Democrats have been doing this kind of representation of what America actually looks like. They've been doing that for quite a long time. But it seems that Hispanics and black voters are abandoning that for policy. So how do you square that circle?
Yeah, what's happening, I mean, and I do think that the efforts on the part of the GOP have helped, but I think more than that, it's the fact that Democrats have been messing everything up. They've been fouling up every single problem that they're faced with. You see what we're dealing with gas prices, inflation, economic issues, and their answer to that is to focus on January 6th. I think minorities have finally gotten fed up and they're more willing to consider Republicans. There was a Wall Street Journal poll that came out that suggested that more Black Americans, more Hispanics are actually willing to support a Republican candidate over a Democratic candidate. So right now it's up to the Republican Party to take advantage of that because really this is based more on disillusionment than so much saying, oh, I just love what the Republican Party stands for. No, I think they're being given a chance. So it's going to depend on what Republicans do with that chance.
That's a very interesting point you bring up, especially where you mentioned the January 6th show trial thing that's happening, because you do have a significant number of Republicans are fully behind the January 6th committee, the findings of it, people like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. And do you think that's putting off many Republican voters?
You mean from supporting Republicans or?
Yes.
No, I don't think so at all. I think most Republicans see that for the sham that it is. The only people that are being convinced by it are the people who are already convinced. I mean, you have that never Trump wing in the Republican Party. They didn't even need the hearings for them to go against what's going on or to not support Republicans. So I don't really think it's doing much at all.
Let's just talk a little bit about what policies appeal to certain segments of voters. So let's put aside the policies that the left are promoting, which of course appear to be, let's have high gas prices, and look at the ones that more conservative voters might be wanting. Now, is there a difference between what Hispanic, Black, and traditional white voters want in terms of policy?
I don't think that there's much of a difference. I mean, we all want the same things. It's just a matter of how we get there. But I mean, every American, including Hispanics and Black people, they want to have good jobs. They want to have decent paying jobs. They don't want to be paying a ton of money at the pump. They don't want to go to the grocery store and have to take out a second mortgage on their home just to get a steak. They want things like that. Education. Most Black people, when polled, support school choice. The party that they vote for in general does not. And yet you have conservative candidates out here saying, we want to give you choices. When it comes to crime, everybody's concerned about crime, but especially Black and Hispanic people living in these areas where the crime is happening, yeah, they want people who are going to come in and crack down on crime. So I don't think that there's a huge difference, really. It's just a matter of who they think is more likely to deliver.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean with that. I was looking at the latest numbers on issues that are important to voters. And obviously, number one's inflation. Number two is gas prices. So economy, because it's always the economy. But as you point out, schools are, I really think that's one of the fastest growing concerns for American voters across the board, regardless of party affiliation or political ideology. And the idea that children can get a proper education that prepares them for the world is really hitting home to parents. Now, the push for more school choice, but other options within schooling, such as homeschooling, that they're really coming to the forefront. Now, you and I have talked about homeschooling before, Jeff, but for those who didn't catch that show, what are the latest numbers on homeschooling?
So the rate of homeschooling and private schools and charter schools have gone up as far as attendance goes. Public schools have gone down. Especially among Black parents, which was what we're talking about here. It went from 3% to 17% of Black families who are homeschooling now after the pandemic and even after we're coming out of it. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. But when it comes to education, the public school system isn't doing so well, and people are starting to recognize that.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that there's so many more people homeschooling nowadays across all communities is that because of the pandemic, they understood that they could manage that kind of life. And whether that means that one parent has to stay home or they have to arrange extended family for childcare, that kind of thing. I think that what they've realized is that I can balance this, and which kind of suggests to me that bringing your children up and giving them the education that you want them to have is the natural default position. And
Sure.
Perhaps the public school system is more of an aberration. Yes, it's a long-standing aberration, but the idea to want to be close to your children and to help instill the values in the education that you think they should have, rather than something that's decided by committee and looks like a horse or an elephant, you know the old adage. I think that's really come to the forefront because people have realized that their ability to do something and to juggle this busy life has become apparent after the pandemic, and politicians who are willing to support them in these choices that they make for themselves, I think they're going to get a lot of support. Jeff Charles, thank you ever so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me back.
You're listening to Liberty Nation Radio, heard across the Radio America network from our flagship station in the nation's capital, WWRC in Washington, D.C. Remember, you can tune in for Liberty Nation on WWZQ 1240 AM out in Amory, Mississippi. Thank you for being here, Mississippi. Coming up later in the show, we talk liberty with Scott Cosenza on how New York's Governor Hochul is intent on ignoring the Supreme Court's Second Amendment ruling. But up next, after this short break, we dive deep into the latest economic mess caused by Joe Biden and his freewheeling Twitter ways. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for
I think
LibertyNation.com.
we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fighting for freedom.
The tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I can
others.
do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.